Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for episode 9 of Survivor 43. Feast your eyes on this podcast here on week 9 of Survivor 43, as we are here recapping a double boot episode for the ages. Two big blindsides, two big players from the supposed majority going, and plenty of fights along the way. So excited to get into this. Of course, I am Mike Bloom, and I am joined by two people that will hopefully not go at each other's throats, a la James and Owen by the end of this. Though, who's to say? I may provide a game that will do just that. First, let me welcome somebody who is already laying out some unripe papayas at our fruit buffet here at the B&B, Liana Boraas. Liana, how are you?
I think that's going to be my new style of conflict management. Like if I ever see anybody getting into a tiff, anybody want a papaya? Papaya?
I mean, little do you know, though, that it was a bit of a poison papaya, right? That Noelle was trying to quell the drama so that she could set up her own sweet justice, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like the papaya of deception.
Yeah, revenge is a dish best served unripe.
Mhm.
Well, we are very excited to bring in our guest here, someone who is covering so many things across the scripted, reality, just general sphere. Most recently, The Crown, which makes sense here, Grace, because I think, would we consider this a coup on King James the First?
Yeah, of course we would. Yeah, he got ousted. Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
going to wear the crown at the end of the season. Yeah,
So medieval.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
guess
That's why
I-
Jeff did the accent.
Oh,
Like,
that's why.
oh, now it makes sense. He knew how royal it would be, and so he came in doing his best
What
British
was
accent.
that? Can we talk about that? What was that? Okay, I don't even have a good explanation for it. I don't even remember how it started. It was just when they were walking up and all of a sudden Jeff started doing it. Was there something that prompted him to do
Okay,
it?
I think so. I saw a tweet on Twitter that was
As you
about
do.
how like someone's facial reaction as he's like, and guess what? There's two tribals and there's two immunities, as if they haven't. They've clearly seen the last two seasons, as if they don't know. And so perhaps he was just trying to make sure that they were as distracted as possible. Like they're
Oh, I
not
like
looking at the
this.
thing behind him of these two
So
separate
really
stations.
throw
Mhm.
them off.
Yeah.
So maybe he should have been like wearing like a fake mustache, or, like not
Yeah.
wearing pants, just like standing
Yeah.
there in his little boxers, and people would be like, Jeff, what's going on there? Pay no attention to what's going on behind you.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
Wizard of
exactly.
Oz.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
ignore the man
Uh-huh.
behind the curtain. Ignore the two different colored setups for the challenge. I
What?
think
We're
that,
competing in division. What? Yeah.
I think that no pants, honestly,
Yeah.
is better than the accent. But I understand maybe why he wouldn't want to do that on television. But at the same time,
So, I mean, the question is, how does he explain that? Right? Does he say it's an accident of like, oh no, my worst dream, my nightmare, I'm not wearing pants and I have to take the test? Or did you think he's like, I came out like this, like I want to show off
okay, I
things
think
that people have not seen on Survivor 22 years?
okay, I think here's what it's got to be. There's got to be movement associated with it too, because that's going to draw the eye. Okay.
Mm.
So as soon as they start coming around the corner, the castaways are just peeking around. Jeff spills something on
Right.
himself.
This is very Kevin with the chili.
The chili.
Yes.
Mhm.
Preferentially
I
something
like this.
hot.
Want to know what you're
Mhm.
playing for? Okay, here's your peanut butter and jelly. Oh no, I spilled it all over
Oh
myself.
no! And then he has to like strip naked, and then there's
Mm.
like a whole thing, because then you're watching him, and then that way no one's gonna pay attention to the color of the setup, right? Come on, I mean, come on.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is the ultimate magic trick. Is softcore porn is the ultimate distraction.
But then
Boom.
I think though then he very clear, like Jeff would have to figure out how to play it cool, right? Like explain. So I feel like then he'd be like, Survivor's kind of like when you're not wearing pants, and he'd go
Yeah,
into full metaphor.
Cody, give me a metaphor to describe the fact that I'm just in my tidy whities at this point, covered in peanut butter and jelly.
It's all about adapting, Jeff.
That's
Like
right.
sometimes you rub peanut butter on your nipples and you got to take your clothes off.
Well,
That's just the way
Huh?
Survivor goes.
Survivor, you show up at at the immunity challenge, and you don't have all the things you expected, like your pants,
Wow. Who
right?
would have
Like,
thought?
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Season 6 of Survivor, people stripped for chocolate and peanut butter. Now you strip and you put peanut butter on yourself.
There you go.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. All right. Well, that didn't help me at all in terms of understanding the accent, but like, I'm happy with the new ideas we've come up with.
Yeah,
I wish he'd have looked to the camera, right? You know, when he was doing that in 41 and 42, he's like, so check this out.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna do a British accent when the crew
Yeah, you would have
crew
thought
Yes.
that like he put on the British accent to purposely be more Fleabag, right? To be like,
Right.
they don't know what's
Right.
happening right now.
Mhm.
It was so bad.
I loved it. I mean, not since the Drinks Before War is a good idea. Could this be? I think we speculated about this, right? When Survivor Guy first came out in the discourse in the interview with Dalton Ross back in Survivor 41. Could this be his voice? Do we think?
Oh, do you think that's his wait? Do you think that's Jeff's real voice?
Oh, that Survivor Guy's been in control all the way up to this point, and this is Jeff being like, "Help me out, please."
Yeah. Jeff Probst is actually like a British aristocrat, you know? Yeah.
He sounds like an NPC in a video game.
Mhm.
Help me out. Okay, so if that's so hold on. So Survivor Guy's accent. No, Jeff's accent
Survivor
is
Guy's
the British aristocrat. And
yeah,
Survivor Guy
voice
is regular Jeff. Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're talking like James McAvoy split levels, right? Of like, do you want to deal with this version of Survivor Guy, or do you want to deal with Jeff Probst at Tribal Council?
It's good. Maybe he was binging the new season of The Crown. Obviously, that timeline works perfectly. They definitely didn't film this before The Crown came out.
Listen, The Crown features many time jumps. Maybe Jeff was catching up.
True. True. Yeah.
Honestly, I believe it. Like, I believe it that it's something as innocuous as that. That it's like Jeff has been watching a lot of, I don't know, some show with an accent, and he's like, I'm gonna try it out.
Cassidy, you're like Princess Diana here, just in the royals, but very much on the outs. How do you feel about that?
Oh my God. Okay, I would love that. You can tell like what show Jeff is watching based on how he's asking questions at Tribal Council.
That would be amazing.
Well, we know he was watching Jaws a couple weeks back, right?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm excited for when he starts watching Barry and he's like, so as a serial killer, murderer, assassin man, how does it feel to Anyway,
it's gonna be tough for the Survivor contestants when he catches Squid Game. This gonna be tough for them.
Oh,
yeah. It's like you're walking on panes of glass, and some of them make you fall through, and some of them don't. Actually, it's very applicable to Survivor, though.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this episode, which I feel like, much like Barry, killed it in a manner of speaking. It's definitely my favorite episode since I think back in like the Lindsay boot episode. Just something that I think coming in, Liana, you and I spoke about this last week, a bit of concern about the fan base as to the direction that the season was going in both the boot list and like, okay, now there's this majority that seems to be having a big stronghold and we'll just pick off the outsiders. And you think, okay, we're dividing things up. Sometimes in about half the cases we've seen so far in the new era, one vote is a big blindside, but one vote is just another pick off the outsider. Lo and behold, not the case with Survivor 43 here. We have two fairly big moves, I would say. Though Ryan was, I think, a bit of a free agent. I would still say he was kind of part of that majority. So color me surprised to see both of the boys in blue go here. Grace, what did you think? I guess I should say in general, what have your thoughts been about Survivor 43? And has episode 9 changed your opinion on the season one way or the other?
Yeah, I think it's been really fun. I think the highlight of the new era of Survivor is certainly their casting more than anything else. Like it's almost like every episode you kind of don't really want most people to go. I was on the stock watch in episode very early on anyway, and we were like, yeah, boy, this is like people are not playing particularly well. And I feel like once I got to the merge, people's games sort of for the most part started like there's just this big alliance and people found it, and it was fun because it was not necessarily by old tribal lines, which I think was very fun to see. And this is where I think it starts to get really exciting that this is the big alliance starting to actually eat itself. It's very fun. That's the best part of like having a big alliance is watching it actually start to crumble.
I can't believe that the alliance is eating itself when Ryan is making 30 pounds of clams for them to eat every day, catching 21 fish.
Yeah. Eat the clams. Don't eat me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that idea of like take something from camp and then be like, if you vote me out,
Yeah.
I'm taking it with me.
Well, that's the thing, though. I asked Ryan about it, and I think, yeah, we were all, at least I was under the assumption of like he was trying to hold the food hostage. No, he just had clams that he was going to bring back for his mom because his mom like had a collection of shark teeth, and he's like, "Oh, I have this giant clamshell. It'd be good to keep it in." So it was more so him providing a fun fact of like, "Here's a souvenir I'll walk out with if I leave tonight."
He's certainly not going to be able to
Oh.
get all of that. Like, is there stuff inside the clam, or is it just a clam shell?
It's
I don't
just a
think. Are you?
clamshell.
Okay.
So he wasn't like taking food. Yeah, he
Yeah, I
certainly
know.
implied that he was leaving with
No,
food.
but I think looking at Ryan, for better or for worse, like Ryan would not do that. Like the most
Right.
duplicitous he got, right, was to throw the challenge. I think he told me in his in the interview, he's like, basically the one thing I would never do is like deprive the camp of food. I don't think he's pulling a, like a coconut bandit and like squirreling away food for himself. Like he's out there catching fish, cleaning out giant clams, and it was more so just on the surface, again, I think the game minded of us would be like, oh, yeah, he's going to try to hold the food supply hostage so that they don't eat without him. But no, it was just, hey, here's a fun souvenir I'm going to bring home. So if I'm voted out, totally fine.
Look, I'm gonna say though, the wording though sounded suspicious. It was like,
Mhm.
I've got 30 pounds of clamshells and they're coming with me. Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing is like, look, they're coming with me. I'm taking them with me, kind of thing. But of course, knowing Ryan's personality of just how much of a sweetheart he is, that actually tracks and makes much more sense than him stealing the food supply.
Ilana, what did you think about this episode? Do you feel like this is going to be like a permanent turning point in the season, considering the way both votes went?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see the groups come back together because, we saw Carla be, I guess, convinced, strong armed by Sammy. Not exactly sure what happened there in terms of their conversation that actually flipped the vote to have Carla vote for James. But obviously, that sort of shatters the whole Coco thing because, Cassidy, James, and Carla seemed like at least a relatively strong group. Although
The
I would say,
three-headed Hydra, as Gabler called them.
Yes, exactly. But I would say that even the week previous, that already started to fall apart with Cassidy kind of going at James. And so maybe Carla felt like, look, they're gonna, come at each other anyway. So fine, I'm okay with that for this move if that's what my other allies want. But I really see I see I see Cody and Jesse in the driver's seat, but then also that preview for next week makes me so nervous for them because they seem like such a strong pair that would never turn on each other. And of course, that's going to be a big target. Now they do have two idols, but we'll see how that is moving forward. The one other thing I wanted to say is that there was a very high possibility that we saw Noelle and Cassidy go out this episode based on the way that the tribes were split. And so I'm very happy that that did not
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah, so I want to get into both of these votes because again, I think they were very interesting in and of themselves. I mean, like we got to start with the James and Owen stuff, right? Because
Yes.
Yeah.
that's what I will say about this season is that I am loving the fact that we are getting like actual interpersonal fighting, which I'll be candid, like I didn't know if we'd see in modern Survivor because I think people are usually savvy enough, right, to be like, keep it inside, don't cry out loud, save it for the confessionals where you can complain. But I think just at a certain point, as James vocalizes, right, you get so frustrated that you end up taking a fight to multiple locations across the beach. I know I tweeted about this. This is the first time I can remember in quite a while that we had like a full out argument at camp. I'd be happy to be corrected here, but it was so nice to see. I absolutely loved it.
I love that. I feel like the place where we sometimes get sort of the most heated is a post tribal, like the first
Mm.
scene
Yeah.
in the next episode. There's like clearly tensions of like, did you vote for me? It's like, no. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you obviously did. Or what did you do? Whatever happens
Mhm.
where somebody's upset about the vote. Obviously, it's like, very tense because the vote just happened. So for this to just keep lingering and for I think, yeah, it is the seemingly smarter move for Owen to just try and make sure he's like, no, I get why you told me to vote for Ryan. That's fine. That's cool. Okay, just like loop me in next time. I also love that Sammy gets off so scot-free. I do think that's very
Mhm.
funny. Who is scot-free. where sorry, my brain's broken.
I love it. No, this is
uh,
like the broken brain people come to the BB. That's what B&B stands for. Broken
Yeah,
in the brain.
broken brain.
yeah. And James calls Owen out on this. Like, Sammy was right there too. He's like, yeah, but I asked you first.
Yeah, but I like Sammy and I don't like you.
Yeah,
Is basically what it
exactly.
comes down to. And of all people, and that's what I will say. Maybe the one thing against this episode, which I really loved overall, is like there are some murky narrative things. Like we got a little bit filled in the beginning of this episode, right? That like Owen was initially out of the loop, but Gabler filled him in. But also nobody knew who the other Ryan vote was except for Cassidy. And Cassidy says in a secret scene that like it seems like, to be candid, she did it out of pure pettiness. It wasn't part of any plan. She's like, yeah, I was frustrated at Ryan, so I threw a vote towards him. And so this ends up being like T-Bird voting for Lex, right, in Survivor Africa, of this mysterious vote that nobody knows about and is assigning blame to random people.
But then maybe I misunderstood. It was like, but I did what you told me to do. I voted for Ryan. That's what Owen was saying. Was he claiming the other vote, or was that the week before?
Yeah, I wondered that too. I guess I missed
Yeah,
this
and then because there
too.
was also the weird fact checking, right, where James kept saying you voted for me twice, and Owen corrects him to say
Yes.
no, only once. He voted for James at the Ellie vote, and then he ended up voting for Ryan the during the Dwight vote. But James still goes ahead and says he wrote down my name twice. So there's just so much misinformation flying about.
I kind of like that they're not like they're both kind of wrong and they're both kind of right. That like James being like, yeah, but you voting for Ryan was like our test and you did it. Like that's such bad, like trying to like fix the situation, try to keep him on board. Even last week when he's like, you sit out, you're fine, you're good, and Owen can see right through it. And so I feel like that's not great. But then James is like, but you've actually voted for me in the past. Like, yeah, that's pretty good point, James. That this person actually did vote for you. That's good. So I feel like they're both right and they're both wrong in this situation, which is the most fun Survivor. Yeah.
I think for me, it was just so fun to have an actual fight. Like that's my favorite moment in reality TV. I love fights. I think they're just so fun, mainly because I like to live vicariously through the people who are having the fight, and because there's something inside. As much as I would love to pick fights with people, like there's something in my brain that just doesn't allow me to do that because I
I'm
know
just
it's the wrong
imagining
thing to
Liana
do.
on the street being like, "Hey, you, come here! I need to yell at you."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so fun. I wish I could yell at more people. But, like, again, I know that it doesn't ultimately help and I probably shouldn't do it. But there are a lot of people I'd love to be like, you're being a blah, 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 blah. Anyway, if that provides any insight into my psyche of how I feel most of the time. But
again,
anyway,
broken brain.
Yeah, broken brain. So just like, I didn't even care what they were fighting about. I like completely lost track of exactly what was going on and who was accusing who of what. But the fact that they were fighting at the water well, walked back, fought the entire way they were walking back, came into camp, James is just like throwing his arms up in the air, and then everybody is there watching. Oh my God, it was amazing television. I could watch it over and over and over again.
That scene, James coming back, was big, like coming back to your parents, and it was like, it's all my fault, I guess. Like I don't know, it was great. I loved it.
Well, because what I love is, you know, James is gonna accuse Owen right of like throwing a hissy fit and walking down the beach, but James is the one that brings that frustration back into camp, right? He's the one that throws his hands up and says, "It's all my fault," I guess, and he's the one that makes it, I guess, a tertiary location, I suppose. And then going back to camp, it was so great. And what I love about it is I feel like the seeds of this have been germinating for so long, not even as far back as like this entire, in my opinion, post-merge storyline of like Owen and James not being on the same page. If you go back to like even the Murgatory episode, Owen's like, yeah, I think James is a little shady. That's why he's part of the plan to vote him out. We've seen last episode, James obviously wanted Owen out, but let's go all the way back to the titular lovable curmudgeon from the 90-minute episode, right? Where Owen's like, I'm just putting on a brave pace because usually I get really grumpy and frustrated in real life. And this shows that to a certain extent, Survivor wears you down to who you truly are, because Owen was over it at a certain point. And I love, from a television perspective, that it just all bubbled to the surface. And he's like, you know what? F this. I'm just going to call this out. I can't stew in here a little bit longer. Like, let me actually vocalize what I'm frustrated about. And it led to some high key drama. I thought after Gabler and Ellie had their thing, I was like, well, I guess we're done with that. Nope. We still got smoke going on besides the fire making challenge. And that makes me so happy about this season.
I think also because the hangriness is really in full force. I know now they've got the rice because they sat out, but I mean, a cup of rice a day really isn't going to do that much when it comes to hangriness. So I'm sure that it's a combination also of like Survivor really pushing and pushing with the exhaustion and the hungriness and all of that kind of stuff that really just pushes it all to the surface. So I'm okay with that.
And then on top of that, you think, okay, Owen's toast. Here comes Noelle with the steal a vote, using this advantage in somehow a defensive yet offensive way of like, I'm going to steal Owen's vote so he doesn't play a shot in the dark, which honestly I think is brilliant. I never thought about it like that because, yeah, the rules of shot in the dark are if you don't have a vote, you can't play your shot in the dark because you have nothing to sacrifice, essentially. And you have nothing to barter with, in a manner of speaking. And so she does that to sort of present this smokescreen to James of like, don't worry about anything. Don't use your knowledge as power. If you know anyone has idols, I'm just going to steal Owen's vote, and that's fine. But then it's purposely setting it up as sort of a double bluff so that she can use the Owen vote and along with Sammy to cast 3 votes. I do feel bad for James to a certain perspective because I think he had like the perfect configuration of people to get him out, right? Like there were 3 outsiders in Owen, Gabler, and Noelle. Gabler, by the end of this episode, seems to be coerced back into at least the good graces of Jesse and Cody. So he had Owen and Noelle, who were kind of gunning for him, and then Sammy, who has been vocalizing for the past 2 episodes how much he wants to flip on the group. It was a really unfortunate grouping, but Grace, it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought the intrigue here was really fun. The way that they kind of get to tell the story, right? Of Noelle wanting to get out James, looping in Owen, and then assuming they have Sammy, and then Sammy being like, "Yeah, I'm not so sure you actually have me." And I do feel like I want a lot more clarification about how Sammy and Carla made this decision, like who seemingly chose, because it does seem like Sammy got Carla on board, but Carla in a confessional before they leave tribal is like, well, I know that I have Sammy. I know Sammy will vote with me however I want to vote. So that feels like a bit of like a faux confessional from Carla of trying to spin it in one way. But the way that this vote sort of unfolds to ultimately end up being James is really, really like fun. This is like, an editor's dream that like there's like, oh, this is it, but then there's a plot twist, and then here's what actually happens.
I think because it's like multiple people doing that, because theoretically the vote, so there's like sort of 2 independent things happening, right? You've got Noelle with the stealing the vote, right? And then the fake faux vote. And then you have the Carla Sammy kind of storyline going on. Both things ended up happening, which made it a 4-1 vote. So, it you could say one or the other didn't really matter, right? But somehow they both ended up working out. And so we never really got clarity, as you mentioned, Grace, on the Carla thing. So that didn't really happen. And then in terms of the steal a vote thing, so okay, I know I saw an article somewhere that Jeff Probst clarifies knowledge is power, but I didn't read it. So can you guys fill me in on exactly, like, if Noelle had already played it, she would have already played it, right? James couldn't have stolen the vote that she stole.
So
or no?
I don't think it's about stealing the knowledge or stealing the steal vote. It's very confusing. I agree. It's about making sure that James, there's somebody, he doesn't end up stealing an idol. He knows Carla has an idol. Is that right?
He does not.
No.
He confirmed, I think, to Dalton Ross that he did not know, but in case he did, right? Because remember, James and Carla up to this point were thick as thieves. I would imagine there's a fairly good chance that, like, because everyone tells everyone everything in this era, that like, oh, if she had an idol, he would know. So either he gets her to play it on him or he just steals it from her. So I think it was a way to safeguard that, as opposed to, because to your point, the knowledge is power can only be played when Jeff asks if there are any idols or advantages that can be played. So after the votes are cast, essentially. So the steal a vote could never be taken because the steal a vote has to be read, but it has to interrupt Jeff Probst essentially before he says it is time to vote. It was more so, I think, to safeguard any other advantages or idols that could have possibly saved James. If he gets a tip off as to something's up, he could steal that and save himself.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So so more of a safeguard against something else going awry and keeping that smoke screen up than necessarily something with the actual steal vote itself. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because
It's
at
almost
first I
like
was like,
using
oh
the
my god.
advantage just to keep James feeling like, okay, this is the plan is good, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't need to, I'm not going to get up and start like trying to switch the vote or anything like
Yeah.
that. Just to
Uh-huh.
total, like, it feels a little bit like an excessive use of an advantage. I think specifically because there are, other than Carla's idol, is there any other advantage on the tribe?
Not on the tribe,
No.
no. But
Yeah,
again, you
so
never
yeah,
know.
you
You
never
should
know.
also mention, though, again, speaking of public information, a lot of people know Noelle has a steal a vote. Now she can kind of go in, right, and be like,
Yeah,
I don't have anything. I'm
yeah.
Mhm.
completely innocent. I think that can certainly help as well. That now there's not as much of a reason to target her because she doesn't have something so public on her that people want to flush that from the game.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I kind of went like back and forth. At first, when she said, "Okay, we're gonna steal Owen's vote," to do this thing, I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" And then I was like, "Is that necessary?" And then now, like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can understand the logic, and it's a cool, like, smart, subtle kind of move." Like, I love stuff like that. Total props to Noelle for thinking of that
Hmm.
strategy.
Yeah, I will say between that and the too much testosterone comment, like
Yeah.
banner episode for Noelle,
Yes,
in my opinion.
100%.
I will also say though, the Sammy side of things, I was tickled beyond belief with his pitch to Carla, namely, how bad would it be if James wasn't around anymore?
It's like it would happen in like a murder movie. Like, how
Yeah.
bad would it be if James wasn't around anymore? Actually, like, how it can be
Say
that
say
bad.
James was
Hey,
dead. How would you
yeah,
feel?
like a
Yeah, if
mafia movie. Yeah,
yeah, if James was thrown in a pet cremator, how would you feel
you
about
know,
I really
yeah,
kind of wish that
yeah,
this is how he broaches things. Of like, obviously they're well beyond death's door at this point when they end up meeting with his clients. But he's like, yeah, if Fido was dead, like on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you feeling? Point on the chart behind me
yeah.
how you'd be feeling at that point.
I think it's really interesting that I think Sammy, I mean, him and Carla vote together, but I do feel like because he does this other thing where he says, "Well, who do you trust? Who do you trust more, me or James?" And I feel like, boy, that's a line that like not everybody can say and get away with. Like, I do think
Mm,
that like starts to rub Carla the wrong way. I guess the what is that like? She has to sort of go wherever Sammy goes because there's not enough votes, right? Because you're not going to get Noel or Owen to vote
I
with
mean,
you.
she could, if she felt so much that James was essential to her game, she could play her idol on him, you
Yes,
know?
mm,
that's true. Yes.
But yeah, I agree, and it's something we've seen from Sammy before. Actually, one of the reasons why he slowly started turning against Ellie and Janine in the pre-merge is, if you recall, there's a conversation at Baka where Ellie's like, "Oh, I'm gonna ask Gabler about whether he knows his idol is valid because I'm closest to him," and Sammy's like, "You think you're closest
Right.
to Gabler?" So I think it's
Right.
clear that Sammy really values how close he gets to people and hopes to be their number ones. To your point, though, Grace, it is interesting that he is incredibly explicit about
Yeah.
it in this perspective of like, well, you have to pick between me or James. Who do you pick?
Yeah. And I do actually think that James going might actually be good for Carla in the sense of we're talking about the other tribe that like you have Cody and Jesse who are so like, seem so clearly to be a duo, and Carla now can come back without sort of having that baggage. It's sort of this idea that like when playing the idol to save James, yeah, you saved James, but also now the two of you look incredibly close, right?
mm,
This is the like Survivor is all about the last few seasons. You don't want to be the biggest, flashiest player in the game that immediately puts a target on your back and you go home. And so I think it's Carl, there's the one hand that like, yeah, Carla just like betrayed the person seemingly she was closest to, although she might be closer with Cassidy than James. So she's willing to like betray James, but I think it like actually lowers her threat level to a degree because this is especially with the steal of vote play. It doesn't seem like Carla's move, even though Carla can later say, well, that vote wouldn't have that wouldn't have happened if I didn't tell Sammy to vote out James, right? So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not necessarily upset about Carla letting James go for the reasons that you mentioned, but now I'm trying to think of what her path moving forward and her path to the end looks like. Like, is it just, I mean, she's got seemingly the best relationships with most of the people. Like, no one has even brought up her name at
Yep.
all as a target.
Though they
So
might now that she's won individual immunity.
yes, that's definitely a possibility. I think that because of those relationships, assuming that they don't start targeting her because of the whole like immunity idol or immunity threat kind of thing, she's got the idol, right? Which no one knows about, which is good. And then the other thing is that because of those relationships, she can kind of sit back and like if she's going to let other people that are big targets, let's say Cody gets targeted or Jesse gets targeted or someone else who, you know, seemingly looks like they could win the game, then she can kind of sit back and has so many options in terms of who she wants to move forward with because of those really strong relationships. So it's a little bit of the anybody but me kind of strategy, I think, for her because of how strong she's connected with so many people.
That's the thing is I think in the modern era of Survivor, it's this idea of like you don't want to be looked at as being incredibly close with a person from an outsider's perspective because we see this, right? Ellie gets voted out because she looks to be super close with Janine.
Mhm.
You know, we look at here with someone with James. That has happened a lot in the past 2 seasons as well. That I think it's this idea of, okay, I can move forward and slip a bit under the radar. It's one of the reasons why Janine was actually voted out last episode is because someone like Ryan said, I don't want her slipping under the radar and making it to the end because it's very easy to do so when you're just one number in the game. Survivor is oftentimes a game of half measures where you take a look at a tight pair and you're like, we'll get rid of one of them, and then it's fine if the other one stays in.
Mhm.
And so I think to that point of like Cody and Jesse being the next target, it ended up working out well for Carla in a manner of speaking, where like maybe for her it was, okay, James eventually has to go, and I'll be able to have enough runway to recover and not be looked at as this three-headed Hydra, perhaps. Which then, though, plays into the other vote, which I will admit was a bit more confusing. And maybe we'll get more explanation on it next episode. But, you know, this was a purposeful job done by the editors, right? You have Cody and Jesse say, all right, if we look over at the jury and James is sitting there, maybe we should vote out Cassidy because then that leaves Carla all by herself. They look over at the jury. James is sitting there. They do not vote out Cassidy. And they outline the reasons why, but I just feel like that was an odd story path to take to get to that surprise outcome.
I mean, I guess the whole point was just the editors deceiving us. I mean, again, it wasn't like if James is on the jury, we will vote out Cassidy. It's like if James is on the jury, we would consider voting out Cassidy because it seemed like they were leaning towards voting out Ryan sort of regardless. But then maybe, I guess, we could consider voting out Cassidy, you know, if this one set of circumstances happened. Maybe they looked over at James and he looked pissed on
Oh,
the
he was
jury,
pissed.
like so upset. They saw his face and they were like, "Okay, yeah, no, not that." Like, yeah, it was them. They did it. They voted out James. We had nothing to do with taking out Coco. Like,
Let's give
that's not
him
us.
a clam. Ryan has a big clam he can give to James.
Yeah,
Cheer him up.
That's nice. Yeah, here's our
Yeah,
peace
it's a
offering.
gift.
Ryan and his big clam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
send him over there. Have him take care of that relationship. Yeah. So you know, I'm not sure. I mean, I think to me, it seemed like they were, at least Jesse was leaning Ryan kind of regardless. And so I don't know if it necessarily mattered who was sitting on the jury when they got there.
I think that I don't think they had a great choice here, actually. I think this is like for sort of Cody and Jesse. Not either voting out Ryan or Cassidy, I think leaves the other one in the game, and that feels good. I think it's a bit of a mistake. I think that in my mind, I think Jesse, it seems like he might potentially overestimate his relationship with Carla. I would be very excited for Jesse and Carla to for sure be working together. But I feel like after this split vote, like Sammy almost slots into the Jesse spot there between Carla and Jesse, or Carla and Sammy. And so I feel like you've kept Cassie in the game, who I feel like for sure is going to go back to and want to work with Carla. Whereas I'm not sure that Ryan 100% would. I definitely am happier that it's not like, okay, Jesse, Cody, Gabler, and like Ryan are like, you know, a bros alliance. I'm definitely happier that that's not the outcome we're getting. But I do feel like for Jesse and Cody, it's just more likely that they have 4 votes and potentially a 5th vote going into next week than I think they do with Cassidy. Like, I'm not sure who they're going after next week, that like trio. And so I feel like it's ultimately going to turn around and fall on them. I feel like they didn't, like, I don't think either vote is a great move for them, but I think this was probably the wrong one for them.
I would say it was more so wrong for Cody, I think, above the two of them. And I think your point is valid that I think this was like Jesse making the move for both of them. I mean, Cody is telling Cassidy to her face, like, I don't know, I like you, but I'm not entirely sure. And I think for him, I mean, this dude low key has either come in second place or won basically every individual challenge so far. I think of the two guys, he is by far the person that's more in danger. Ryan being there, I think, absolutely helps us out. Not to mention, when I talked with Ryan, he said that Jesse was part of his endgame plan. I'm sorry, what Cody was. So it's clear that like Ryan wanted to work with him as well, perhaps more than Cassidy. So this might be one of those things, right, of when we speak about these tight pairs, how they each have different decisions they want to make, but one person overrules the other. I could see, especially if Jesse wants to work more with Carla, that keeping Cassidy in would certainly help that. That's almost like a peace offering, right? Of like, hey, I kept one of your tightest allies in the game, even though you, Carla, got rid of apparently one of your tightest allies in the game. But it makes less sense for me from Cody's perspective based on the reasons why he would be targeted. Not to mention, it seems like he had a better relationship with Ryan than with Cassidy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and that also could have been part of why Jesse wanted Ryan gone, is because, you know, you're seeing your closest ally have these other options and you're like, I want you only to have eyes for me. And so you get rid of that other person.
He divorced from his island marriage, and now he's in like his he's a little sensitive in his first relationship post-marriage, right? Of like, listen, I haven't gone on a date in a long time. I don't know if this is the way that things usually are. I'm just feeling a little paranoid about it.
That's so cute. The other thing I was trying to remember is that when we learned initially about the Carla Jesse relationship, who was it that gave the confessional being like, we are super close? Was it Carla?
Jesse.
It was Jesse. Okay. Interesting.
Right?
Because that, I think that's one thing that I do not feel is completely fleshed out. I feel like it came out of nowhere, first of all, when Jesse was like, yeah, and Carla and I are best friends and we're always going to be best friends. And it was like, wait, I'm sorry, what? And if
we have matching bracelets.
Yes, exactly. We got best friend necklaces. And so what, like, I'm failing to understand is exactly what that relationship looks like, but especially from Carla's perspective, because if that's true, that Carla doesn't feel that same way just because she's got strong connections with literally everybody. So they're going to feel like, yeah, she's my best friend. Then Jesse is operating under false information in terms of the strength of that relationship, in terms of the bidirectionality. So that could ultimately have a big impact depending on what Carla wants to do later on, especially if she's employing the anybody but me strategy. If those two are being targeted, she might just be like, yep, that's fine, and isn't really going to stand up for Jesse.
There's another factor we need to bring in here. I know he's been lurking underneath the surface. How much does Gabler play a role here? Because we know Cody and Gabler did the odd forearm handshake to confirm that like they're locked in as bros. Could it be a case where Gabler was, for whatever reason, pushing to get rid of Ryan over Cassidy, and they're like, we don't want to lose Gabler, so let's sort of acquiesce to what he wants, show him how we're willing to listen to him, unlike some of his other allies, and vote out Ryan here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because then you have, like, this scene last episode, right, of, like, Gabler sitting out there fishing with Ryan, being, like, in majesty of what Ryan is doing, and maybe knowing how, like, on and off Gabler is, that might be a reason why he voted him out. I'm not entirely sure.
He was just learning all of the fishing skills so that he could usurp Ryan's position as the provider of the tribe.
That's what Gabler does, right? Like, that's how he wound up being a heart instrument operator, as he just, like, was in a hospital at some point and watched someone do it. He's like, I'm going to learn exactly what you do, and I'm going to take your job.
Yeah, that's the classic Gabler strategy.
Well, let's continue to talk about these two boots as we parse through our thoughts about them in the preseason. These were two very unique guys in the preseason who proved to be very unique on the show as well. But let's see how they did in comparison to what we actually thought about them in the months beforehand. Liana, let's start with James once more. James talked a big game in the preseason. Did you feel like that portended a big game for him in general?
Okay, well, before I read my prediction, I just want to mention something that happened at the tribal council, this tribal council. It was when, I don't know if either of you noticed this, but it was when, I think, oh no, maybe which tribal council, I don't know. Someone gets a confessional about like the monster is hungry.
Oh, Cassidy talked about it at Tribal Council.
Okay,
Right.
so this was at that. Okay, all right. So, well, anyway, so Cassidy talks about the monster is hungry. Did you hear the like laughing in the background that they played?
Yes!
Oh my god. I was like, "What? Wait, is that the monster? The monster's laughing?"
Oh, it's a giggling monster.
It's a
Interesting.
Oh, so it's
but
like more,
an evil.
so it's more like a Muppet than it is like
Yeah.
a monster movie monster. Like, ha, 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 I'm the monster.
It didn't
That's
sound like
hilarious.
that. It was like evil.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. They're having a lot of fun with the soundtrack
Yeah.
this season, I think. So
Anyway.
yeah, when Cassidy decides to cash in on the producer points, perhaps a bit too late, right? They're like, Cassidy, we moved on from the monster. The monster's done at
That's
this
right.
point. Nobody liked
we're
the
done.
monster.
Yeah.
We're done with that now.
It's
Nice
out.
try, suck up. Okay. So, James. Anyway, all right. So, I had James making the jury. I said that James would have a great balance of strategy and strength and lead Coco alongside his partner Lindsay to many pre-merge victories. I said while Vessi and Coco team up in the early merge to get out
Oh.
Baka, yeah, James becomes an early boot in the resulting CVV Civil War. That's Coco versus Vessi.
Oh, wait,
Amazing.
are we
CVV
applying for a
Civil War.
job? Get your CV?
Get your
Yeah.
CVV in the chat. And then I said James goes to Shipwheel Island first and games the system like the chess protege he is. I don't know what his strategy was, but he figured out how to game the system. Ally
Extra vote
checkmate
to
is-
Rook 3.
Yeah, checkmate.
Yeah.
You have to give me your advantage.
Well, it'd be this thing of like, if we all don't reach in the bag, then nobody gets the advantage.
Yeah,
That's the
something
Queen's
like
gambit.
that. Right.
That's right.
Yeah, right. I said his ally was Lindsay. His enemy was Justine. He had 30 confessionals.
Okay. So I had James pre-jury, but very close to making the jury. According to my cockamamie fan fiction, this was our Murgatory shock
yes.
boot. I said that he gets basically put in with a group with a bunch of people who all have someone else to vouch for them, and he's sort of like the lone person that sticks out. He uses a bouncer analogy when talking about which people to let into his alliance. Oh yeah, because James was like an event planner, and I think like a bouncer as well. So I think it's like when you're a bouncer in a club, you gotta choose who's cool to let in,
Yeah.
who's gonna pop champagne, and who's gonna be stuck waiting outside in the cold.
Makes sense.
I said that he only utilizes his, quote, set people up with fake advantages ploy once. Oh, yeah, I forgot that he had planned preseason to be like, oh, I want to plant fake advantages to make people think that they have Nova when they actually do, which was the Gabler thing, right? From a certain perspective. He uses the ploy once on Cassidy, though it does not get nearly as devious as he said preseason. He will take one of the final trips to Shipwheel Island. I don't know why we both focus on Shipwheel Island.
It was a big deal previously, yeah.
Where he finally opens up to somebody about the emotional wall that he puts up. His closest ally was Carla. His enemy was Cassidy. He has 15 confessionals, and the randomly drawn phrase for James was, "The knives were out, and she was sharpening hers."
Oh.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so I guess we had a little bit of like a Benoit Blanc situation, Grace.
Yeah, a week before Glass Onion comes out, so that's great. Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the rewards that they're going to be competing for? A Glass Onion?
Yeah, it's an actual Glass Onion, not watching the movie, right?
Survivor's a bit like a glass onion.
You try to peel back the layers and it breaks. Is that
Exactly.
I don't know what a Glass Onion is. Yeah.
It looks appealing, but you try to bite into it, and all you get is cut.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so
All right, so I also say,
Interesting.
according to Rob's fact checker, James had 21 confessionals.
okay, all right. So you were technically closer. I think there was a lot that I forgot about James from the like as you mentioned all those things. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he did say all of that stuff. I feel like the person that we saw on the island didn't necessarily hit any of those notes in particular. But yeah, I mean, I think we didn't really get to see a lot of things from his perspective also, and so I think that that's probably why we didn't get to see sort of maybe the strategy that we were thinking of. Because it seemed to be mostly dominated by Carla and hearing her thoughts on Coco.
Yeah.
He never got a flashback, right? James never
So
got, like,
that's
a
the thing
flashback?
is he got one in a secret scene where they celebrated his birthday, and he talks in a secret scene of like, it's always tough to celebrate my birthday because it comes right before Mother's Day, and I lost my mother a couple of years ago. Once I was relegated to a secret scene, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But it's a valid point that like we didn't get really a lot of content from him on the show from a personal, emotional perspective. And I feel like even when he was personified as this villain, like I never really got the sense that he actually was. Maybe it's because we're sort of missing this season that kind of Omer brand, like I'm doing evil things and I absolutely love it type of villain. More so, it was like James was like an unconscious villain, right? Of like he was pissing people off, apparently, even though. Again, we didn't necessarily get our extent of the ego and the mafioso perspective that he was presenting to someone like Owen.
I think he sort of very early on, he just seemed to like people wanted to work with him. I know it was like the women on Coco, right? Just like immediately wanted to like loop in. He was super good with that, and it seemed like he had a thing with he has this relationship with Carla, and they develop a bond. But it feels like once the merge hit, that like a little bit of his. I think two things. One is like it became a little bit more of a fractured game than I think he maybe was expecting. But then also for some reason, he was seen as sort of the person dictating things. And so I think that the conflict with Owen really makes him seem like he gets like this, like, I don't think he gets a villain edit, but I think that Owen certainly like perceived him as like trying to be like this like dictator out there, right? Of like, this is who we're voting for, this you have to vote for. Oops, you didn't vote for, like, oops, we voted out a different person than I told you. Like, sorry, but that's okay. You earned our trust. So, yeah, he was in a tough spot, I think, once the merge hit.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Grace, what do you think? Who had the better lay of the land on how James, not Earl Jones, would do?
Well, I feel like I was, Leonard said that he makes the jury, and you said right before, but then I feel like the most correct thing is that like his closest ally is Carla, right? Isn't that like most of his story? I feel like.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So I feel like as soon as you say that, it's like, well, I think that's correct, though. I think it's the
I nailed the main thing we know about James. His closest ally is Carla.
Yeah. Right? So I think that takes the point. Yeah.
I mean, that's true. What else do we? It's like, if you had said his enemy was Owen, that would have been the only other thing I think that would have made it more accurate in terms of what we know about James.
If you had said his enemy was
Owen.
No.
All right. Well, let's move on here to Ryan. I will start with Ryan here. So I had Ryan making the jury. I said that he would immediately reveal his cerebral palsy diagnosis to his tribe to explain why he may approach their conversations a little differently. I have no idea if he did that. We got plenty of it. I have no idea if he talked about it out on the island. He automatically becomes the Coco provider and a star for the tribe in challenges because duh. He will become the big guy that everyone quite literally leans on when the weather gets rough in Fiji. Try to remember. I feel like maybe there was one scene where like the weather got rough, but it seems like it's been okay this season at least. So no, Ryan has not been the human jacket that maybe I thought he would be. I said that he would put on a good showing in the first couple of individual challenges, which convinces everyone he needs to go ASAP. As a result, he non-dramatically becomes the first jury member, which, close enough. His closest allies were Lindsay and Carla. His enemy was Sammy. He had 20 confessionals total, and the randomly generated phrase, green should have smelled more tranquil, but somehow it just tasted rotten.
It just tasted Ryan?
Ryan. Rotten.
What?
Rotten. Is it rotten or Ryan?
Oh, Ryan. It tasted Ryan.
Oh, rotten.
Rotten.
No, Ryan.
I was like, did you end? I was like, how did you do that? That's amazing. That's somehow
imagine if I just generated phrases by throwing their names in there at some random word, like the Mad Lib. Green should have smelled more tranquil, but somehow it just tasted Ryan.
Ryan.
It just tasted Ryan. Okay, I don't know what that means. So sure.
I mean, maybe it's talking about the papayas, right? Like,
true.
You think green would have been better, but actually it tastes a bit rotten. It's a little too unripe.
Yep, I think that's definitely possible.
So I got to go get some clams. I better go get some clams. A bunch of
30
clams.
pounds.
Just the shell. Just the shell.
Just the shell. Well, I also had Ryan making the jury. So I said, "Oh, Ryan, sweet, sweet Ryan." With the strategy,
so patronizing.
I know. I know.
Jesus.
I just remember, like, I can picture. I know exactly where I was when I was listening to your interview with him, or the whole like the thing you did with Rob with like the recording and all that. And I remember thinking, like, this is the nicest guy. He's so sweet. He's so kind, and Survivor's gonna eat him up. So anyway, so my prediction reflects
like 30 pounds of clams.
Yeah,
like an unripe papaya. So I said, with the strategy of Survivor moving 100 miles an hour, which It's 160 kilometers per hour. You're welcome. Ryan keeps up in the best way he possibly can, which is just being a workhorse around camp. But the combination of his provider ways, being strong in challenges, and just being the sweetest guy ever gets him all the way to jury, where he immediately becomes a target for others nervous that his story would win him the votes in the end. I said his ally was the ocean / the jungle. I said his enemies were none. And I said he got 28 confessionals.
All right, he ended up with 18 confessionals, according to
So
Rob's fact
close.
checker.
You nailed that. How'd you know? How'd you know that his best friend was the ocean? How'd you
I know
that?
that was real. That was actually a really
Yeah.
good. That might be your closest ally is Carla that wins you this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's I'm big on allyship. So
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
I'm an ocean ally. Maybe that's what he means by green. Would have smelled more tranquil. Green. He's
Yeah.
very green and very emotionally environmentally conscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In touch with the environment. Yep.
So that's the thing. So I know that obviously people blanched when there were no Canadians in the cast. Grace, does
Yeah.
Ryan represent the most like Canadian out of everyone here?
Yeah, sure. We'll take him. We'll take Ryan. Yeah, sweet. Bring your
We'll
clams,
adopt him.
buddy. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think overall, Grace, of Ryan? Because I think Liana and I have been talking this entire time about like how enigmatic he is, especially for the new era of Survivor. I know some people kind of clowned on the way that like, oh, he's too old school. He's going out fishing. What was your take on Ryan and whether or not he fit into this particular phase of the game?
Well, I don't want everybody to just be like complete scammers. Like it is fun to have somebody like Ryan out there who is playing the game a little bit differently. That you can't exactly. I guess you can kind of like figure him out, but it can be a little bit frustrating to try and like work with someone like Ryan. I think I definitely feel like Jesse and Cody should have kept him around, and yet they choose not to, right? And I think the combo of him being sort of like a provider, but also then very clearly doing well in challenges. Something I noticed, like if Ryan is on the other tribe, he wins immunity, doesn't go home. If you
That's a
swap
very
with
good
anybody,
point.
he's in second. He comes in second place out of everybody, right? So if he's on the other side, he wins and he doesn't go home. So he's a big challenge piece that I think you have to like, yeah, get out. Although at the same time, like I thought that he might have some runway in terms of being somebody who potentially you could take to the end. And they like Jesse is saying, like he's not very strategic, and I do think that I think there's a world where like that type of player can now get to the end, because like I guess he didn't, but like I thought maybe there was a chance that he would, because you can sort of like chalk it up as like, yeah, probably won't get the votes in the end. If what he's doing is sort of being the provider and like winning challenges, like it's been a little while, I think, since we've seen that archetype win. I don't know that it's respected as much in the new game. And yet it still does seem like it's like, okay, well, I guess we probably have to vote him out now, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it goes back and forth because like
Yeah.
I agree that I think the entire narrative last episode, right, was like how isolationist Ryan is, and we saw
Right.
that with him fishing, we saw that with him building the wall. But at the same time, I guess if you look at the narrative too, he could come forward and say like, I had nobody and I
Yeah.
made my way to the end of the game. I think
Yeah.
every narrative in Survivor can be spinned as a positive and vice versa, depending on the person that's involved in their own narrative. And so if Ryan had the wherewithal to be able to do that, I don't think he's necessarily, for lack of a better term, dead in the water when it comes to his own winner equity. I think maybe someone like Gabler is more like that. But I think you did bring up an interesting point, Grace, that maybe in a certain perspective, Ryan could be seen as a bit more of a GOAT. But then there's also the danger of like, okay, well, if we keep him in the game and he's not guaranteed to work with me, then like, why do I want to keep him around?
Did he share that he had cerebral palsy with anybody on the island? Do we know that?
I don't know if he's confirmed that. I mean, I got to imagine that this guy is just like so open enough that he had to have at this point, right?
Yeah, because that's the other sort of thing that I do think there's like there's a really good like final tribal story that like I could see worrying some people, which does kind of suck because this chronic condition is like out here, facing adversity, but then he either has to like not say it so he won't be voted out because of it. Survivor's a weird game sometimes.
Well,
Yeah.
I think also I think he could have won. I think especially if he goes on an immunity run at the end. I mean, I think that absolutely could be part of the story of like, and depending obviously on what the jury values and how they're ultimately making their decision. But I think if he could spin it into a way, I think there's a world where he could spin it into a way where he could, end up ultimately getting a majority of the votes. I mean, he only needs what, like 5 or something. So
Yeah, it's
I
an
think it's
8-person
doable.
Yeah.
jury.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved Ryan because again, I feel like he was this odd sort of blend of again this old school I want to provide, and it's not necessarily for like someone's got to do it. He like legitimately loved getting to help
Right.
people, but then
Mhm.
at the same time, like he does try things. We can never forget this man's legacy may boil down to like fishing all day, and the fact that he threw a challenge and
Yeah.
accidentally got out his closest
Yeah.
ally.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm. No,
Uh,
he also wanted to wrap a burrito in pizza. Let's not forget that,
That's
guys.
true. That's true.
Now he
No,
finally gets to it, Ponderosa.
Yeah.
ugh, he just seems so sweet. I love Ryan to death.
I
Ugh.
Yeah, I do think he's sort of the best version of like I'm a provider
Mhm.
because the way he tries to sort of like
Yeah.
use it to his advantage is done in the sweetest way. He's like,
Yeah.
"Well, I guess I'll just leave with all the clams." And you're like, "Oh, that's so sweet. That's too
Aw,
sweet.
aw,
You're too
Ryan,
sweet,
that's so
Ryan.
cute.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Aw,
Yeah.
your threats are so cute.
Yeah, your threats are so cute."
Maybe that's another reason why to keep him in. Nobody takes him seriously, right? He's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
I might do this. Like, oh, right, no, they're probably
Yeah, you
just
would do
clamshells you're
that.
gonna give to your mom. He's like, oh, you got me. It was an
They
empty
saw
threat.
him like dumping all the clam actually out of the shell.
Imagine if he just dumped it into the fire or something on the way out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so you know how like you can't if you get voted out and you have an idol, you can't give the idol back, right? Because like
Yeah.
you're voted out, you're out of the game. But what about food? What if he was hoarding food? Could he leave the clams or is it like nope, you got voted out. Anything in your bag goes with you, including the food?
It's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, does that like amount to the same thing as like personal property, right? Like I've seen people after getting voted out of
Mm.
Survivor, like give clothing, much to Angelina's chagrin,
Mhm.
to someone on the way out. You know, could someone do that?
Ah.
Of just be like, Cody, here's my clams. You are now the next provider. Take the role. Take the mantle. You're the heir.
Here's my clams.
Yeah. So we don't have the Wand Up anymore. Like Cody's here. Cody, here's my clam. Sounds like a Wand Up song if I've ever heard one. Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, well, let's get into our game this week. So I was inspired by the fact that our two boots in this episode, in James and Ryan, are both sort of multi-hyphenates when it comes to careers, right? Like James is an event planner, but I think also like a venture capitalist, and he's had history in sales. And Ryan is a warehouse associate / personal trainer. And it gave me inspiration to play a game that I've always wanted to play on the B&B, and that I've never had the opportunity to do so. I know it's been a suggestion for Outwit, Outplay, Outlist before. We're talking weird survivor jobs in this game on the B&B, in a game I like to call Check the Resume.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Amazing.
So here's how it works. We're going to go back and forth here. Each one of you is going to get 2 previous Survivor contestants and a list of 3 jobs.
Okay.
It is your job to match up the job to the Survivor
Oh
contestant.
my God.
Can I put this
So-
on my resume?
I'm just gonna
I mean, I don't know what employer. I guess if you again, anything can be spun a certain way. I suppose critical thinking skills, good recall,
Mhm.
good sense of judgment. So you have to not only match obviously 2 of the jobs to the right Survivor characters, but then also figure out which is the dummy job, in a manner of speaking, which is the job that does not apply to the 2 of them.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay.
Bartender, aspiring actor. Got it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's what it's like. We're going back to like season 13, right? When like
Yeah.
half of them were bartender or aspiring
Yeah.
actor from Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right, so again, 2 Survivor players, 3 jobs. Sort them
Okay.
out. 2 are real. 1 does not apply to them.
All right. And our mascot, Debbie.
And our mascot,
Mhm.
Debbie, of course, the queen of multiple jobs.
Mhm.
All right, let's start with you, Grace.
Okay.
2
Okay.
Survivor castaways.
Okay.
And I have provided visual aid for those of you that want to
thank
check
you.
out the video version of this, for people who are like, wait, who's that? So we have from Survivor Philippines, Zane Knight, one of the most legendary first boots of all time.
Uh-huh.
And from the very next season, Survivor Karamoan, Matt Bischoff. The 3
Uh-huh.
jobs you have to sort are auto customizer, BMX bike salesperson, and tire repairman.
Okay.
So you have to figure out who has what job.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat, please?
Yes. So we have auto customizer.
Auto
We have-
customizer.
Oh no.
We have BMX bike salesperson, and we have tire repairman. All grease monkey jobs. But who is matched to what banana? Do you guys notice how Cassidy, by the way, called the immunity necklace the golden monkey?
The golden monkey. Then they
Mhm.
panned to it, and I couldn't tell why it was called the golden monkey.
I thought she was trying to be like euphemistic, but I think they were trying to make it be like, it does look like a monkey.
I didn't think it looked
It
like
does?
it's a skull, and it's
a
gold.
skull. It's a very
Yeah.
morbid of like a monkey
Yeah.
skull.
Ah, yes. The dead
So
monkey.
my thought here is that BMX. What is it? BMX salesman? Bike
Yeah,
salesman?
BMX bike salesperson. Yeah.
I feel like that's fake. And then it's between these other two. And I feel like Zane is more likely to customize my auto than he is to repair my tire. So I
He
think,
just has that look.
yeah, he looks like he would customize. He would deck out my, but maybe that is Matt. I think I'll go with Matt as the auto customizer and Zane as the tire repair, tire
all right.
repairman. Yeah.
Well, you are 1 for 3, so I'll give
Okay.
I'll give you like
Yay!
half a point.
Okay.
Zane indeed is the tire repairman. He probably is like his picture is on tire level, so
Oh.
maybe that gave it away.
Yes.
Matt is the BMX bike salesperson, which
Okay.
like looks
Yeah.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. You know, you can judge a book by its cover. So I will also say the dummy job is actually the job of another Survivor contestant. Auto customizer was the job of none other than Colby Donaldson back in season 2
Oh.
of Survivor.
What?
Who's
Really?
auto customizer?
Exactly. My name's that was Cody.
There's a movie
Colby-
coming out called A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks. I presume it'll be about auto
That was
Oh,
it's
Colby's
not an
Custody.
autopilot. Okay. got
Colby's
it.
Yeah.
big breakout
Who's
role in Red
autopilot?
Eye was auto
Yeah.
customizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll give you half a
Wow.
point since you got
Okay,
one
thank
instead of
you.
all 3. But
Thank you.
still, good job. Good start at least. At least you were really the guinea pig for like how
Yeah, that's
tough
fair.
this game was gonna be. All right, Liana, next up.
Oh.
Michaela Wingle from Survivor 23 South Pacific and nearly Survivor 31. Remember, she was in the pool for second chances.
Yes.
And I'm sitting, even though she's standing in this picture, Chelsea Townsend from Survivor Ghost Island. Your 3 jobs are EMT/pro cheerleader, model /spray tan business owner, and lingerie football player.
Wait, hold on. What was the first one again?
There's lots of slashies here. So we
Okay.
have EMT/pro cheerleader.
Okay.
We have model /spray tan business owner.
Okay.
And we have lingerie football player.
Okay, so if I think I'm pretty sure Chelsea was a pro cheerleader. I like have that memory in my mind of her being a cheerleader. So Chelsea, I'm gonna say EMT pro cheerleader.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. Michaela looks so orange. Like in her
Girl, look
her-
how orange you look.
girl, look how orange you look, girl. So I'm gonna say, oh man, but is that the oh no, but is that the answer? Because you were like,
See,
oh, she does like. Do you think
but
he's
also,
tricking me, Grace?
well, also the thing is that like just because it sounds like a familiar job, it's probably another Survivor's job, right? Because in my head I'm like, oh, I think somebody was that, but
okay,
yeah.
Or he's double bluffing me,
Yeah, I
and he's
know.
like, oh, she's gonna overthink this.
Mhm.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna hope you're not double bluffing me. Even though it is my gut to go with the spray tan, I'm gonna go with the lingerie football model.
You are correct.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, Grace, for helping me think through that.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
a shared point. So
Yeah. that's right.
I'll take I'll give you a quarter point and
Okay,
I'll
great.
take 3/4
Wow,
of the
great
point.
negotiation
Okay.
skills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so we're tied now.
Michaela was a lingerie football player. Chelsea was on the other side of the field, I suppose, as the pro
right.
cheerleader
Yeah.
/EMT, which is again a very odd dichotomy there. Though I don't know, professional cheerleaders, Grace, you obviously, you do the
Mhm.
sports podcast, like you know that oftentimes people who cheer for these professional sports teams do not make a handsome buck.
No,
So I guess
yes,
Mm.
yes.
that-
Some-
yeah, 'cause-
Some
sorry.
would say being a pro cheerleader saves many lives on its own. So, you know.
So really, you should just say EMT,
Yeah,
EMT.
that's right,
You know,
that's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
EMT in many ways,
Mhm.
emotional perhaps in the EMT.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
the E stands for. And then the model / spray tan business owner, Julie McGee from Survivor San Juan del
Ah.
Sur.
Okay, yeah.
But yes,
Oh,
indeed,
see?
Liana, you read my logic. I was looking at how orange bikini, but she's also wearing a bikini. I'm like, okay, maybe bikini lingerie. Like
true.
Liana could go
Okay,
in either
yeah.
direction.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, I saw the orange, and that's where my brain went.
Yep, so did
Mhm.
Brain Enhance. Okay, let's move on here. Grace,
Mhm.
we've got
Okay.
in honor
Oh.
of the Off Speed podcast, I've got a coach themed
Okay.
group for you here.
Yes.
So we have Alex Bell from Survivor
Yes.
the Amazon and Dreams Hurd, infamous runner-up from Survivor Fiji. Your choices are triathlon coach,
Oh.
gymnastics coach, and cheerleading coach.
Oh. Oh boy. Hmm. I feel like, gosh, your cheerleading coach being named Dreams is incredible. I feel like that's really good. Triathlon coach. Gosh, I really don't know, Mike. These are like too similar. Gosh, I'm gonna say Dreams is the cheerleader coach. I don't know if
Okay.
that's right, but I'm gonna say that. And then I don't think Alex. I think Alex is more likely to be a triathlon coach than a gymnastics coach, but I could be way wrong. So I'll lock that in.
Locking it in, and that lock is indeed correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yay!
Alex was a triathlon coach. Dreams, indeed, was a cheerleading coach. I'm not sure, to your point, if the nickname was associated with the
Yeah.
occupation or not. And the gymnastics coach is one Jason Francisca was a gymnastics coach, surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Well, I was trying to
interesting.
think, like, I think maybe he did a flip at one point. I'm trying to remember.
Do a flip.
Well, I know that Dreams definitely did in Survivor Fiji. Like, there was one
Yes.
challenge where he did like a flip as a dismount. I don't know if Jason
Mm.
did.
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't know what I would have thought Jason Siska's job was, though. Like, if you had just asked me, like, hey, can you guess what his job was? I would have said, I don't know
Unemployed.
what. Unemployed? Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
like,
probably.
my first thought was living in a van.
Yeah.
Man, boy.
Surfer
Yeah.
dude.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Jason Siska kind of is like the latter day Turner, is he not? From Big Brother, of just like you could imagine him opening his
Yeah.
own shop of rugs.
I think they kind of look somewhat similar in the face, and then the long hair really does it. So yeah.
What does coach? It was a soccer. What did he coach?
He was a soccer coach.
Soccer
Yeah.
coach, yeah.
Alright.
I mean,
yeah. I'm ready
Yeah.
for the
He
stick
coaches
shack to
life.
happen.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Liana, here's your
Oh,
next
no.
one. Two guys who look very similar,
Yeah.
yet have very different careers. From Survivor Guatemala, Jamie Newton, and from Survivor Nicaragua, Shannon Elkins. Actually, both Central American seasons as well. Your three jobs are water skiing instructor, pest control company owner, and cigar lounge owner.
Okay, water ski instructor, cigar lounge owner,
And pest control company owner.
pest control company owner. Okay, so one is just simply an instructor. The other two are like owners of companies.
Are entrepreneurs.
And you're saying that they have very different jobs. So, therefore, I believe one is an instructor and one is an entrepreneur. So now I just have to figure out which one is which.
Yeah.
Now, Shannon's picture is in front of the ocean. The ocean.
Yeah.
So does that give me water ski instructor?
Okay,
vibes?
Ryan's closest ally.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
But Shannon gives me more entrepreneur vibes. So the question is would he be in pest control or cigar?
He's dealing with smoke either way.
Yeah, one's well, I was
Yeah,
gonna say one's more
yeah.
deadly than the other, but okay. So then I'm gonna lock in Jamie as water ski instructor, and for Shannon, I'll go cigar lounge owner.
So close. So
Ah!
close.
Mm.
Jamie was
Ah!
indeed the water skiing instructor. Shannon
Yes.
Elkins, You know, he basically is a bug, so I think it makes sense that he owns a company that gets rid of bugs. Pest control company owner. The cigar lounge owner was the career of Jervis Peterson, his second time on Survivor. In
Oh.
Survivor Blood versus
Wow.
Water, that was his occupation.
That's it, because I'm thinking about starting a pest control company where I convince the pests to come to my cigar lounge. And then
Oh.
they just have there's just like bugs who are smoking cigars.
Smoking
I like that actually. Like kill them
Yeah.
slowly through
That's
cancer.
right. That's right.
It's a long-term plan, people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, oh, listen, I'll get rid of your bugs in like, I don't know, however long it takes to settle in. But I'm just gonna try to convince them to engage in unhealthy habits.
Yeah, all the Dragon's Den people were out, which is weird.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't want to invest in
pretty
that. That's
weird.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, Grace. A Tale of Two Morgans.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Oh.
from Survivor Guatemala, same season as water ski instructor Jamie, Morgan McDevitt, and from Survivor Ghost Island, Morgan Ricky. Your three careers are marine animal trainer, massage therapist, and magician's assistant. 3 M's for 2 M's, if you will.
Wow. Marine animal trainer, massage therapist, and magician's assistant.
Yep.
They're both in front of
Oh.
water, so I
Yeah,
don't know if
that's right.
that helps to eliminate
Marine.
anything.
Marine.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. Massage therapist seems like a very common job. It feels like something that would come up like on Survivor more than once. And the other two are way more fun, I think. Marine animal trainer, like at Marineland. Everyone loves.
I mean, I would imagine so,
Yeah.
as opposed to like the wild.
Okay,
Come here, shark. Come here.
I guess so. I'm gonna say that Morgan is the magician's assistant, and Morgan McDevitt is the magician. Yeah, hold on.
Really
Can I get away with this? Can I get
Oh,
away
no.
with this? Actually, Morgan is one, and Morgan is the other.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, Morgan McDevitt is the magician's assistant. Look how she's posing.
Yeah.
That's not magician's assistant if I've
It's
ever
about
seen
to
that.
disappear.
And then
Living
That's
magician's assistant.
one of her arms has totally disappeared. from the
Oh,
shot.
maybe it got cut off in the box.
And then I'm gonna say Morgan Ricky is a marine animal trainer.
You are right on the M for money. Yeah, that is correct. I mean, Morgan McDevitt, probably one of the least memorable Survivor contestants, but probably one of the most memorable vocations as a magician's assistant. And Morgan Ricky is indeed the animal trainer. The massage therapist was not to another Morgan, but someone who was on the Morgan tribe.
amazing.
Nicole
Oh.
Delma from Survivor Pearl Islands was the massage therapist.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to you, Liana. Misty Giles from Survivor Exile Island and Anthony Robinson from Survivor Fiji. Your three jobs are divorce attorney, missile engineer, and expert witness locator.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what's
Is that a job? Is that where
Yeah.
you like go find people that you need to testify or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I didn't
it's
know that was a
someone,
thing.
at least back in the time that they played, that was an actual job to just be tasked with specifically finding expert witnesses to give testimonials in court.
Okay. So, what was the very first one?
First one was divorce attorney.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure Misty was an engineer because I remember thinking like, yes, female engineer, yes, queen. So
When you were what, like 8 years old?
yeah, look, I was
Yeah.
I was all about STEM from an early age. So I'm pretty sure she was an engineer, but I have no idea. And I feel really bad because I feel like I'm profiling solely based on the pose and the hat.
Now you're the expert witness locator.
But well,
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like that hat is like someone who's like, you kind of want to pull it down over one eye, and you're just kind of keeping an eye on someone from afar with your one eye.
What?
Like I have this mental image. I have a mental image of someone sitting in a cafe reading a newspaper, wearing that hat, and using it to like hide their vision as they scope out their
Expert witness
witnesses.
locators are not spies. Like they're not
Or-
carrying out covert operations.
Okay.
Or are they in there with their hat down to see if their wife is potentially cheating on them in case they need to be the divorce attorney for their
Oh, I didn't think
I'm
about
doing some
that.
recon on
Tailing-
your behalf to find out if your wife is
Yeah.
cheating on you.
tailing the clients.
That's
Wow, that's commitment.
That's right.
Oh gosh. Oh no, Grace. Now I don't know.
Go with your
I'm
cat.
I'm gonna stick with the vision I have in my head that is obviously wrong, as Mike has explained, but it's still a very clear vision in my head. Like I imagine him like with the newspaper with the hat, and then he like tackles people, like he's hiding from
He's not a
someone.
bounty hunter.
And well, he's gotta wrangle the expert witnesses and like bring them into court.
They're not gonna say no.
I mean,
Ask
look,
them
Hey.
it's like you're not serving them.
in the thing I've made up in my brain, that's what's happening. So I'm gonna go with Anthony being the expert witness wrangler / locator.
Exact wrong logic, exact right answer.
Oh, amazing.
Yes!
That is, you have just made the job expert witness locator the most exciting thing I've ever heard
Yeah,
in my
for
life.
real.
Of like Jack Bauer levels
Yeah.
of intrigue.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of like, spy mixed with, trying to capture the criminals sort of thing, but they're actually the expert witnesses.
I'd watch this movie. Yeah.
And it's the
This
perfect
TV,
hat
actually
for
a
it.
serialized TV show where every
Oh,
week
this
is a
one,
different,
yeah.
a different
Mhm.
expert witness you need. Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
they just always get in some sort of chase
Yeah.
sequence.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then depending on the type of expert witness, they're set in different areas,
Yep,
right?
that's
If
right.
yeah. Oh, good. Okay, great.
Yeah. We need a
What was the
marine
show-
animal trainer, and he's like hanging out with.
He's like out at
Morgan.
SeaWorld with
Yeah,
his
well,
hat and
what was
his
it-
newspaper.
That's
What
right.
would the show be called? Like Take the Stand or something?
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, that's our pitch. Come on,
Okay.
Netflix. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll
Let's
get
go.
I don't know. Dermot Mulroney is
Okay.
Take the Stand. We need some sort of like attractive enough
Yeah.
white male, middle-aged male for the CBS demographic.
That's
right,
right.
exactly. If we're really gonna hit that, yeah.
All right, Grace. Next up, Ryan O'Prey,
Rhino. Yeah.
from Survivor Pearl Islands, and John Kenny from Survivor Vanuatu. Your three jobs are mechanical bull operator / model, jewelry salesman / photographer, and electrician.
Boy, that's tough.
There was no
I-
basketball player as an option, which really sort of limits the pool.
Oh, and what I
here.
should mention, by the way, the
Well,
divorce
John hasn't-
attorney
yeah.
was Aurora from Survivor Edge of Extinction.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I part of me thinks boy, one of these two has to be mechanical bull operator if you put it in here, but also that could be a trick. That could be a big trick. I think I'll say John is an electrician, and just for fun, okay. Although, are you trying to say that Rhino operates a bull?
Oh!
I think that
So
might be a
then
trick. I'm actually going to say that Ryan sold jewelry. Yeah, and a photographer. What was the other part of that?
Yeah, so it was a jewelry. Was it a jewelry salesman / photographer?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess Ryan is that, and that you're trying to trick me into thinking Rhino ran a mechanical bull.
So, I mean, your logic was fairly sound, but the sound ultimately echoes off the walls in
my God.
silence.
So, completely wrong.
So Rhino was an electrician. John Kenny, perhaps again another infamous log line mechanical bull operator / model, which again make a living any way that you want to. The jewelry photographer / jewelry salesman / photographer was Ace Gordon. Him with Ace kind of had a Jeff Probst-esque accent, right? He had this like implaceable British accent in Survivor Gabon.
Wow. So no points for me at all.
Yeah, but mechanical bull operator / model is
too good.
Incredible.
That's great. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why he said, all right, I need something to make ends meet. Let me go operate the joystick.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
Wait, but like, doesn't the mechanical bull just do its own thing? Like, you just hit the button to start and then it moves, or is he the one?
I'm sure technology's come a long way since.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be like when the singularity takes over? It's going to start with the mechanical bulls and then work its way out.
These machines taking our jabs.
Exactly. The bulls just feel terrible that there's machines
right.
that are doing their jobs for them. Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, Leon. I feel like when I usually see it, I see like automated.
Yeah.
But I guess back in these days of 2004, someone had to operate the joystick for them.
They didn't have the technology yet.
Yeah.
All right, Liana. 2 early season second boots here from Survivor Africa, Jesse Camacho. From Survivor Marquesas, Patricia Mama Jackson. Your 3 jobs are golf course vendor, truck assembler, and sheriff.
Oh
Golf course
boy.
vendor,
Wow.
truck assembler, and sheriff.
Okay. Golf cart vendor. Does
Golf
that mean
course,
like the
golf course vendor. Ryan.
golf course vendor? So
Mhm.
does that mean like okay, I had in my head like the person who rides on the carts and like serves the food from the carts.
Does that happen?
Like a caddy?
Yeah, isn't that like a thing?
Usually you go back to the club to eat food. You don't really eat on the go when you're golfing.
I thought you could like get drinks and stuff.
Well, yeah, you can do
Okay.
that.
Okay. So I have no clue. I have
Yeah.
absolutely no clue. So I'm gonna go solely based off of
Whose water is behind them?
yeah. Well, they both
Yeah.
have water, which is really
Uh-huh.
tough. I'm gonna say
No,
that
Jesse does, right? Isn't that in Africa? Don't they like?
Yeah, that was the whole thing. There was
Yeah.
no water.
That's
Oh,
the
is
sky.
that sky? Oh, okay. Well, apparently I need to see
Is
an
that
iPhone
the
trip.
sky?
of it.
No, yeah.
The
It could
air
be.
water, also known as the sky.
You know, air water.
No, I'm with you. yeah.
I have no idea. I'm gonna say Patricia Mama. She's wearing dog tags, so I'm gonna say she's a sheriff, and then I'm gonna say Jesse is the golf cart course vendor.
Yeah, wrong on all counts.
Oh,
Jesse
boo.
was the sheriff.
What around?
Surprisingly so. I feel like she's like fairly young to be
Yeah.
a sheriff.
I feel like the
Patricia
hat-
Jackson. Yeah,
the hat
maybe it's the
would've given
hat.
it away.
Patricia
Yeah.
Jackson is a truck assembler, which is a job I think I've never heard of before until I looked this up. The golf course vendor won Kathy Sleckman, tri-mate of gymnastics coach Jason Siska from Survivor
Ah.
Micronesia.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
Sure.
here's where we are. We're all
Very-
tied up right now.
Oh.
You each
Fun.
have one left here. So Grace,
Okay.
going to you. Michelle Chase from
Okay.
Survivor Gabon and Allie Elliott from Survivor Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers.
Yeah.
Your 3 jobs are paddleboard company owner,
Yes.
celebrity assistant, and music producer.
I feel like I remember Allie having an interesting job, and celebrity assistant feels right. And then my thought is that Michelle is more likely to be a paddleboard and a company owner than a music producer. So I'm gonna say that Allie is the celebrity assistant, and Michelle is the paddleboard company owner.
You got some points. You were correct
Oh,
on
she's a
Allie.
music producer.
Michelle Chase is a music producer. I'm
Huh.
sad we did not get
Okay.
any Survivor-themed songs a la Wanda Shirk
Yeah,
as a
really.
fellow first boot at the reunion. No, the paddleboard company owner, both times she played, was none other than Brenda Lowe from Survivor Nicaragua and Caramoan was
Okay.
a paddleboard company owner. Very prescient if people watched this week's episode of The Amazing Race, would have come in very much handy.
Yes.
Who was Allie a celebrity assistant to? Because I remembered that she was an assistant, but I couldn't remember who she worked for. Did she ever say?
I don't think she ever disclosed who she was the assistant to. Jeff
Okay.
Probst.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Helping him work on his accents. Got it.
Would you imagine? Because people said that it was enough, enough nepotism to have Mike White on the show as Jeff Probst. Imagine if he put his assistant on the show.
Mm. Like Jeff put his own assistant on the show, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nepotism runs strong.
Oh yeah, this ended up coming out. She was the celebrity for Glozell Green.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's right. Okay. Yes. Yes. I was like, I knew someone I knew.
All right. Finally, Liana. So Grace got half a point here, bringing her total to 3.0.
Okay.
You're currently at 2.5. You have to get at least one right. If you get one right, we tie. If you get multiple right, then you get to pass her and claim the win here.
Okay.
You get to pass her.
Yes.
As odd vocalizing of game show rules. Okay, your final batch here. Robert, not Boston Rob DeCanio from Survivor Marquesas, and JP Calderon from Survivor Cook Islands. Your 3 jobs are limousine driver, professional volleyball player, and boxer.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure JP was a volleyball player. I'm pretty sure. Also, he just looks like a volleyball player. So that is for some reason sticking in my mind. And so I'm just going to go, I'm going to not even think about it. Don't overthink it. I'm just going to write that down. Volleyball player. Oh, God. What were my other 2 options?
Boxer
and what?
Boxer and a limo driver.
Limo driver.
Okay. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Since you're pulling these other jobs from other people who have been on previous seasons, I'm going to try to think of who else was either a limo driver or a boxer to see if I can eliminate people.
Oh, fun logic.
That's not helping though, because I can't think of anyone who I remember.
You're thinking of
as a limo
every
driver or
other
a
Survivor
All
contestant.
right, let me go through the hundreds of Survivor contestants.
Okay, let's see. Richard Hatch, no. Root, no. Okay.
The boot orders.
Yeah.
Kelly Wigglesworth. No.
No. Jenna, no. Okay. So I'm going to flip a coin.
Oh,
I
up to
don't
chance.
And
The
I
old
don't
do or die.
The old do or die. All right, let's see. So do I have a coin on me? No, but I have this nail file, which is 2 different colors. There's a dark blue and a light blue. So dark blue, we're going to go with boxer. Light blue, we're going to go with limo driver. Okay, ready?
Okay.
What did I say dark blue was?
You said it was a boxer. Yeah, you said dark blue was boxer, light blue was limo driver.
All right, boxer it is.
Oh, the nail file chose wrong.
Yeah. I know. Partly because I knew he was a limo driver and I was trying to give it to him. Dark blue was definitely a limo driver, you said. I remember.
Yeah, you said limo driver, right?
Isn't Parvati the boxer?
Parvati was the boxer. Yeah, that was her first career when she ended up playing in Survivor. So
I didn't get far enough. I should have kept going.
All right, we're all tied up here.
Why is the B&B episode like 4 hours long?
Yeah,
go through the boot orders of every
I'm up to Pearl Islands, baby. Let's go.
All right. Well, I have one. I have a tiebreaker here.
Okay,
it's
good.
fairly simple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say fellow cast member of Parvati multiple times over, Ozzy Luth. His moniker for the majority of his seasons was photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Which season did Ozzy's lower third start to appear as photographer? So he has made 4 appearances. I want you each to write down the season Ozzy was in where he started being referred to as a photographer rather than whatever it was before that.
Can we get bonus points if we know what he was before?
When did he become an OnlyFans photographer?
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
I don't think they
does a
specified.
self-photographer count? I guess does that make like everyone a photographer then? Like the syndrome from The Incredibles: if everyone's a photographer, then no one's a photographer.
Yeah.
All right, Grace. What season do you think Ozzy became a photographer?
I wrote South Pacific.
South Pacific.
Yeah.
Liana, what about you?
I thought it was Micronesia.
The point goes to Liana. It was indeed Micronesia.
Nice.
Yes! Suck it, nail file.
So Ozzy was a waiter in his first season, and then in his second season, he became aspiring photographer. It was interesting because, like,
wait, in his second season, that is different than photographer.
In South Pacific, was he full? He was no longer aspiring. Was he actually a photographer?
Yeah, what season did he become an actual photographer? I believe Mike is.
I think he took enough pictures between season 16 and 23. He's like, I think I'm a photographer now.
Can I ask you a quick? I feel like I can only name one person's job from this season.
From this season?
Yeah.
Sammy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can name Sammy. Jesse's the lawyer is the other one. But he's
Jesse
not a lawyer.
He is a political science PhD.
Yeah, he got his PhD. He just defended right before he went out.
I can name one, which is
okay. No, well, yeah, you can. You didn't lie. You can name Sammy, who's a pet cremator.
That's right.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's see. That's a fun game. Can we name people?
There's a game. out in Britain called "I Literally Just Told You," which would be
Yeah.
like they'd like introduce like this is Liana, and Liana works in science, and then this is Mike. Mike, writes for Prey.com, and they'd be like, okay, Mike, what's Liana's job? And,
Right.
it's like you have to like know it
Oh.
immediately. Like all of the things are like questions. This is a very fun one of like
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think
What are their
I think I
jobs?
could get all of them.
you
easily.
interviewed them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I was
doesn't
gonna
count.
say.
Yeah,
doesn't
that doesn't
Well,
count.
so I'll throw it on the two of you then. See how many you can get collectively.
Okay, so Ryan was a personal trainer,
Mhm.
Yes,
or
right.
at least is one of his. I think he might have had two,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure personal trainer was one of them. We already got Jesse. Cody is an elevator sales
Oh,
person.
Yes,
Yep,
that's right.
that's
And
right.
Gabler is like
Medical,
does
heart,
medical surgery.
Yeah,
Repair,
heart valve technician is
surgeon,
technically his
heart
job,
valve
but that's a lot of garbledy-gook.
Okay. Lindsay was a nurse / stay-at-home
That's
mom.
right.
Yep, pediatric nurse. That's right.
Pediatric nurse. That's
Pediatric
right. Yeah.
nurse. There was another salesperson because that was
Doesn't trust salespeople.
Justine. Yes,
that is
because I don't-
correct. She was a cybersecurity salesperson.
Janine was also in tech. She was a
Oh,
tech person in computer tech.
Tech
Mike
person in
told us
computer
that James like was a event party planning.
Yeah, I mean an event
Yes,
planner. That's
it was-
right.
Yeah. Is Dwight a
Uh,
student? Is Dwight a student? Dwight seems like a student.
Dwight was a
Who?
student. He was a graduate student.
Oh yeah, Dwight.
Dwight. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Who else are we missing?
Carla,
I'll go through the boot
Yeah,
list
yeah.
here.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
How about Mariah?
Teacher.
Yep,
She's
that's
a-
right.
Of
Yeah.
children.
Well, okay, as opposed to marine animals. How about NECA? Remember NECA?
Okay, didn't she raise a bunch of money for like charities and stuff or something?
Like we're a nonprofit? I don't know.
Yeah, nonprofit owner.
Nope. She
Oh.
was a pharmacist.
Oh,
Okay, yeah,
close.
the-
Pharmacists don't make. You didn't know that pharmacists make no money. No profit.
She was raising money though for a village back in
Right.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay, yeah.
How about we already did Lindsay? How about Gio?
Yes, he was a project manager
Yes,
because he quit his job or they let him go or whatever before
Yeah.
he came out. Yes, okay, I remember that.
Ellie's a pretty easy one.
Oh, she's the psychologist, the
Yeah,
Clinical-
she was a social psychologist.
social psychologist. Okay.
Yeah, so you got Dwight. Janine is not a tech person in computer tech.
Person in computer tech.
She was a
Technical
UX
term.
designer, which
Right.
is I guess
okay.
in
That's
that
close.
territory.
Yeah.
You got
Okay.
Jesse, you got Ryan. So how about Carla? What's Carla?
Friendly human.
Yeah.
Best friend
Survivor.
to all.
Good survivor play.
Good.
All a fantastic job. But as incorrect, I believe she's like an educational program director. I want to
Oh,
say.
okay. Cool.
Okay, good for her. I have no idea. I don't know.
How about Owen?
Oh, admissions counselor
yeah,
at
yeah.
Tulane specifically in the admissions department.
director.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about Noelle?
Job
Co-
worker.
You,
No,
I
didn't she, like,
guarantee
just-
you are overthinking this. Noelle.
College student.
Oh, is she just a Paralympian? Is she
Yep,
like
she's
a
just a
an
Paralympian.
athlete? Yeah.
And they do this sometimes, like Beast Mode Cowboy. I just know this because I looked up for this game. They just build him as like Army veteran instead of having an actual
Right.
job. Sometimes they
Right.
just do like Monica Culpepper was ex-NFL player's wife
Yeah.
when she played in
Yeah.
One World.
Classic job.
Yeah.
I haven't been applying for that job for a while. It's really hard to get.
It's
I mean,
really
listen,
tough. Yeah.
Could be
Because
worse.
you have
It
to
could
wait
be
for them to retire and then try to marry.
Oh, that's
then you have to
the-
that's
really
the
get your foot in the door.
That's a tricky part.
Yeah. Gotta get him in retirement.
Or it could
Are you
be
thinking of retiring
NFL,
soon?
the
Yeah.
ex of an NFL player.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
hmm
could go either
That's
way.
when that divorce attorney comes in, when you're scoping him out, looking under the crook of your hat.
Yeah.
And I think the last one you didn't cover is Cassidy. We just found out a lot about Cassidy. Did you find out her job?
The internet's Yas Queen? Does that
Not
count
a
as
job.
a
but
job?
I certainly wish it was.
Yeah, that's a job. Yeah.
I have no clue.
I don't know.
I do not know.
She is a designer,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
fashion designer.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Crap. Yes, I knew that. Okay, fine. All right, good. Well, good job.
Let's do their ages now.
Oh, that's fun.
Where
Let's look at
they're
their
from
pictures and figure out how old they are.
Yeah.
How
Okay,
old
Owen's from
are
New
you
Orleans.
now?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. right. I think we've exhausted this concept.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, Grace, you have one more job to do
Oh.
in this podcast. The usual thing that we get our guests to do, right? Which is to highlight a charity or cause that we want the listeners to check out, perhaps donate or volunteer for if they have the means to do so. So, do you have anything you'd like to highlight this week?
Yeah, I would see. This is tough because my favorite charity to highlight is, for me personally, it's called the 10 Oaks Project. They run camps for LGBTQ youth. So let me just quickly, as I'm thinking about it, see if I can find like LGBTQ camps in America, because this one is very like Ontario specific. To see if there's an organization, but yeah, that's my favorite thing. Is camps was like the best thing for me ever, and Camp 10 Oaks specifically runs out of like Eastern Ontario. Is for you either like kids who identify as LGBTQ or of like children of parents who identify as LGBTQ, and they run all sorts of like summer camp programs and family camp programming, as well as like they do like a swim night, which is like specifically for trans youth, which is a thing that like trans people often like stop swimming as soon as they want to transition because it's like very anxiety inducing. So to be offered like a safe space to just go swimming is pretty cool. So I would just recommend people to just go look for like an LGBTQ camp in your area and donate to them. Typically, you can tell if they're like either accredited by the Canadian Camping Association or the American Camping Association. Then they have like the thumbs up that they're like following all these rules. I would know to donate to anybody willy-nilly, but just make sure they're like accredited, and then you're like good to go. So yeah, camp is like an incredibly important part of my life. So yeah.
That's awesome. And the more I think about it, maybe one of the reasons why Ryan got on so well is he has big camp counselor energy, right?
Yeah.
Like very friendly, very outgoing, very much about like, here are all the activities we're going to do. And so maybe a camp counselor was not really what the new era of Survivor was able to accommodate.
I would say, I mean, there's a lot of like synergy with like between a camp and Survivor. Actually, there's one that we highlighted for the Pride is Spoken, which we'll try to pull up as well. But I always feel like Big Brother in camp is actually like there's like so much energy there. Like you're like stuck in this location, you wear silly outfits. Like
Oh yeah.
Gotta,
Well,
like,
I mean,
entertain
listen,
people.
just don't say camp comeback.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the worst parts of camp that I think people have to ignore. Well, Grace, this was awesome as per usual. Thank you for everything that you get to bring. I absolutely love getting to listen to you on podcasts, let alone get to talk with you on podcasts. So thank you for bringing your broken brain to the B&B.
The B&B, yeah.
Yeah, I know you're lending it to so many other fantastic podcasts out there nowadays. So what are you working on right now?
Currently the two big things are probably 1899 just dropped on Netflix. It's from the same creators who made Dark, which is my favorite scripted show of all time. It's like incredibly well thought out. It's like a mystery show. 1899 so far is like proving to be just as good as Dark was. And then also I'm covering that with Ariel and Rich Filiberto, and then The Crown, covering with Shannon Gus. Mike, you joined us for episode 3, Moo. So The Crown has been very, very good so far. So season 5, Shannon and I are covering that. Movies each week. We're covering what are we covering this week? The Menu came out just yesterday, and we're going to cover that. So yeah, that's Ariel and I, and I'm on Twitter at Hi From Grace, as well as we also have Roll Call, the board game show. We also have some news coming out soon about our like November game that we're going to play. So and maybe Liana's going to join us. Maybe. I mean, it's actually confirmed for sure.
The eyebrows are being raised to indicate the validity of that statement. Well, eyebrows, what do you have going on this week in podcasts?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Liana RHAP, maybe appearing in Roll Call. And what else is going on? Oh yeah, Masked Singer, which apparently is going to finish in like 2 weeks, not even going to make it into December, so that's a thing that's happening. Puya and I recorded our episode about this week's episode. We're going to have 2 episodes next week, one on Thanksgiving, because why not? And then the finale is the week after, so that's pretty wild. I have no idea what's going on with Lego Masters. I know they also have a double episode next week, but then I don't know when the finale is going to be, so I'm around, existing, trying to do my best to keep up with Fox's scheduling.
Yeah.
Yes, as we all are in this day and age. So you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. Mentioned before, my interviews with James and Ryan, both really great, I think, really fun guys to talk to. Also, shout out to James for congratulating me on the birth of my child on Twitter. 3 years after the fact, but it's
That's
still
hilarious. It's so
it
good.
is, and the like I legitimately love it. Like I don't want to razz him at all. I love it. The best thing was that then more people started doing it. Like Albert, another infamous job of baseball / dating coach, was like, "Congratulations!" And I'm like, it was 3.5 years ago that
So
this
funny.
happened. But it was
That's so funny.
it's. I mean, James is also very new to Twitter, so I think he just saw like my main
Yeah.
pin tweet. It was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, congratulations!" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's a person now." Like,
Screen.
but I really I love James, I loved Ryan, and I loved getting to talk with the both of them. And you'll find out things like the fact that indeed Ryan didn't really threaten to take away the clams. It was just more so a memento. So that and much more. No Amazing Race exit interview because it was the beginning of the mega leg in Spain, but had a really fun time with Rob and Jess there. Over on post show recaps, like Grace mentioned, got to appear as a guest on the Crown recap, which should be out, I believe, by the time this podcast is out or shortly thereafter. I also got to appear on the feedback show for the White Lotus, another Mike White joint with Dr. Amanda and Ariel, which recently got renewed for a third season. Congrats to Mike White for further longevity.
Mike, I hear they're going to places far unknown. That's your prediction.
I really hope so. I make a big prediction about it.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear my completely accurate read as to where the White Lotus is going for season 3, check out what I'm doing there, as well as getting back in the saddle with Josh Wigler to talk about Heroes as well after a couple weeks break. So that's going to do it for this week on the B&B. Of course, if you have any ideas for games, be sure to send them in, rhapbnb@gmail.com. If this game was any indication, it does not need to be completely applicable to Survivor 43. It could just be about anything in particular when it comes to Survivor. Whatever you send, we are very grateful for anything that might come our way. And we might be going over your game next week as we are doing our Thanksgiving episode in a manner of speaking. And we're very thankful that we were able to get this person back on the books. Beth Dixon, who was supposed to join us a couple of weeks ago, of course, things came up, is joining us next week, which I'm very excited. Her B&B debut should be a lot of fun. She did miss out on the Coco Montrese reference in this past episode, but I think we'll have plenty more to squeeze in there as we are hopefully thankful and grateful for another great Survivor episode. Of course, I am grateful for all of you that have been listening to this silliness all season long, including this week. Special thanks to Scott St. Pierre for editing everything behind the scenes, and Will from America for his fantastic theme song. We'll be back next week with Beth Dixon recapping episode 10 of Survivor 43 as we round the bend on this season. Until then, we'll check you out at your next stay.